I
I
started this.
I can barely do 2 beers now. It's really bad.
Okay. I'm just gonna light a candle. Is that okay?
Please do.
Set the mood, Cian. Set the mood.
It's not fucking lighting. I think it's gone. I think we're all juiced out. Fuck.
Well, that's it. I can't do the interview now. There's no candle.
Oh, we got light.
Hooray.
We got light. Yay. Okay. All right. I just need that. I have incense as well if anybody wants it.
That'd be
It'll
great.
really add to our experience.
What sense have you got, Cian?
It's, hold on. We should save this for the live. It'd be quite funny.
Well, we're live on YouTube now. Hello, YouTube.
Oh, hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube. How are you? Oh, there it is. It's on the floor. It's Nag Champa French Lavender.
Whoa.
I don't know if you can see that there now. And there's Nag Champa on the back.
Go live on the Instagram and we can just talk shite for the first few minutes.
Yeah. Okay, didn't realize that. Sorry, Nag Champa, if you're watching. Hope you're well. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
My mom used to burn cannabis incense. It used to smell like weed in a house, and none of us smoked.
So I'd argue that's a good cover for any time in the future. I know it's just the incense.
I mean, I was an innocent 6-year-old back then, so I didn't really know.
No idea.
Sorry.
Well, we've started a new tradition here on the Green Room where we just kick off with a bit of a boogie, but we need to pick a song.
Oh, great!
I'm thinking "Dancing in the Moonlight."
Oh, I love "Dancing in the Moonlight."
Let's do it.
An absolute classic.
I definitely need more gin for that.
So yeah, people are joining now.
Are
There's loads of people joining. This is like the busiest start we've had. This is great. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone. All my fans.
Great to see the dedication to the study.
Yep. Everybody stay. Do not bloody leave.
8,500.
Wow.
Okay. It's happening tonight. There's a party.
It's a big
UCD Musical Society this evening, lads.
Oh my goodness.
I do have the incense, so you know that.
We've got the mood set. Will we just start? So
yeah, let's get cracking. Let's go for it.
Great.
Hello, everybody. You're very welcome to another week of the Green Room with myself, Cian Gallagher, and Mr. Owen Funge. How are you doing now?
I'm not too bad at all. No complaints.
Yeah. How's your late week exam research going?
Clearly going great since I'm here. I'm clearly really confident in my ability to complete essays. If my professors are watching, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I apologize in advance. My essays are not good. How are you, Cian? How are you finding the
I'm grand. To be honest with you, I'm not going to lie. I've had a few breakdowns this week. The only thing that's got me through it is alcohol. And I feel there's a lot of collective chaotic energy around at the moment. So I'm kind of just thriving on that, to be honest. But yeah, it's grand. It's just usual. Leave everything until the last minute study-wise. And yeah, we'll never learn.
No,
but anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this week we are joined by an absolutely intriguing, fascinating, and talented guest. Just to give some credits, it includes musical directing, chromatics, composing chromatics in London and Dublin in 2018. It's a new Irish musical. Tiernan Oak at Smock Alley. It also appeared at the Other Palace in London, which is quite extraordinary. Also, we have a new musical, The Other Chosen One, which features a musical about Neville Longbottom. It's quite intriguing, and we'll be looking forward to racking your brain about that. Has also been a famous alumni of UCD Musical Society and directed the Irish premiere of Bonnie and Clyde, which is an absolutely fantastic bloody show. So we'll also rack your brain on that one. but it's the illustrious Shauna Carrick. How are you doing, Shauna?
Hello. Thank you. That's such an introduction. I love that. Can I like hire you to introduce me into every room that I walk into?
If you want to pay me to do a bit of introducing, I'll do it.
That's great. I love that.
Whiskey. Well, how does that sound?
Sure, yeah. That we could work something out for sure.
Yeah, no, like it's quite fascinating because we've had so far we had Sean Gilligan on the first week, kind of more from like a directing standpoint, and just general production standpoint, and obviously we've had then Oisin Nolan, and Kate Graham as well. So we have the kind of performer outlook, on things right now, and it's so refreshing to have somebody, and especially of youth, exploring the composing side of things, because I think often, it can be associated with an older generation, and it's lovely to see that we have up and coming talent coming through, and Irish talent, which is even better. Sure. So, I mean, the first question would be, what drew you to composing? What drew you to that side of the artistic world, or the creative flow?
Sure. Well, I mean, I suppose as a kid, I was always that like girl in her bedroom writing songs on my guitar. I really wanted to be like Taylor Swift. So I've my parents have always joked that I've written songs basically since I could sing. But I think I hadn't really thought of musical theatre until a few years ago. I went on The Voice, and I was there singing a song that I'd written myself, and Brezzy, who was one of the judges at the time, really liked it. We ended up recording it. You can go and listen to it. It's on Spotify. But funnily enough, that song was a song I'd written inspired by my friends in musical society. So that was really fun. I had originally written it as a joke for like open mic nights and stuff to play for my friends. Then I kind of started thinking, oh, maybe actually I like writing songs. Maybe I can do this a little bit more. I was so dead set on being a performer. And then, funnily enough, doing Legally Blonde in UCD back in, I think, 2016, I had a really bad injury in the midst of boot camp rehearsals, and dislocated my knee the wrong way. Who knew that there was a wrong way to do it? And it turns out I found it out. And I ended up not being able to walk properly for the guts of a year. And basically I was devastated. I was like, I'm never going to be a performer. I'm never going to get to be part of musical theatre anymore. Because as far as I was concerned, the only way to be a part of musical theatre was to perform. But it actually gave me the space to start thinking about, okay, well, if I'm not going to be able to dance and I'm not going to be able to perform, how do I stay involved in the thing that I just love so much? And I had always had this idea in the back of my head that I wanted to write a show about the people around me, about my friends, about UCD, about musical society, and about lots of other things that had happened in my life, because I didn't see any shows out there about young Irish people, and certainly not ones that were written by Irish people for an Irish audience. So I really thought that was something that I wanted to do. And when I ended up not being able to move for a long time, I found the time to do that, and thus Chromatics was born.
Wow, that's incredible. And I think, I mean, Chromatics is fantastic, and I think like you touched on some very relevant, themes within Irish social life, and whether it be the same-sex marriage referendum, I think was in there, and even touching on stuff like the abortion issue. So it was a really poignant time, and I think really around that period, I feel like a lot of Irish life, and a lot of our generation in particular, were beginning to become more engaged with these social issues. And kind of asking the question of where is Ireland at this point in time, and where is Ireland going? And it was lovely to see a piece of theatre try to embody all of that. Could you tell us a little bit about how the progression of Chromatics happened? Because I think, didn't you progress it from the first stage then to a second stage, and then really
I'm just going to interrupt first. Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt because we Key and I are trying to figure out a word for this week. So when we say a word, we have to take a drink. And just the start of that conversation has really tipped me off to Ireland as our word.
Oh no!
Oh, Jesus.
Last week
we're not going to make it through the rest of this.
So last week was the UK. This week is Ireland. We're sticking with the geographical theme. So now we can go back to the discussion about Chromatics, a beautiful piece of theatre based in this country.
Based on the island.
Oh God.
On the island. So yeah,
on this island. I'm going to just leave my drink here ready for the next one. I'm not even going to make it through two more sentences.
That's definitely a safe bet.
Well,
can
thanks
continue
for
with
that,
questions
Owen.
then.
Yeah.
Anytime at all, Kieran.
Oh boy.
I'm happy to help.
Yeah, okay. So it embodied elements of social and societal problems
Yeah.
within era.
Yeah.
Would you tell us the progression of stage
Of
one chromatics
course.
to
No
stage
problem,
two?
Cian.
Where that
Yeah.
went?
So, I mean, when I first set out to write a musical, I think I didn't quite understand how long it does take to write a musical. I kind of thought, well, you write the songs and you write the script and then the musical is done. That is incorrect, which I have learned many times over, but that was how I saw it at the start. So I just set about writing a bunch of songs. That was how I started. I wrote 2 songs, first of all. It All Begins, which is kind of the opening and also the closing song of the show, and also Unexpected, which opens Act 2. They were just the 2 songs. They had popped into my head. I had this idea of It All Begins at graduation day, everyone throwing their hats by the lake. So I just had those 2 songs to start with. It started off really small. I got a bunch of my friends into a room and I asked them to sing the songs just to make sure that, I started off writing demos where I just layered my voice a million times. And I was like, I mean, it sounds nice, but what will it sound like when other people sing it? So first I got some people into a room. We sang the songs. I was like, oh, okay, actually, they sound good. They sound like songs. So that's helpful. And then we applied for Seen and Heard at Smock Alley, which is a really, really great festival which supports new writing in Ireland. It's absolutely incredible. It's given so many starts to so many. Oh, no. It's given so many starts to so many new pieces of theatre. Hold on.
Get it into you.
Right.
And it is, it's the place that I've really found has been really beneficial to me. Basically, people will put forward their works in progress, they'll get feedback from the audience, and it's just an incredible experience to actually get feedback while something is still being made, because you really get that in the moment feedback that there's just no other opportunity for. So I just love Seen and Heard. I think it's great. Anyone who has ever had an idea about trying to make anything, apply for Seen and Heard to do it. So we did Seen and Heard, and we had 30 minutes. There was, I think, 10 songs all linked together with a little bit of dialogue. Very loose idea of a story, just to sort of explain to people how it was going to work. We had no microphones, we were wearing our own clothes, we were literally just flying by the seat of our pants, I think. But it was a really, really special time, and it was a really special group of people that came together to make that happen, all just out of the goodness of their hearts and the desire to make this happen. So that was great. So that gave us a really good kickstart. And then we moved on to the Mill the following year. So I went away. I actually wrote a script to go in the middle and fill in all the songs. I wrote a few more songs. We put the show on in the Mill in April 2018, I think, which was great. That was directed by me still again. So it was still figuring out what was going to happen and what we were going to do with it. Still trying to find our feet a little bit, sort of in the early stages. Then we went to London in May, where we performed as part of Musical Bites at the Other Palace. And that was a really great experience, and it introduced us to Andrew Keats, who's a West End director. And then I messaged him that summer after we went home, and I said, hey, it was really great working with you. We're thinking about doing a proper run in November. If you're interested, would you come and do a workshop with us? And he was like, why don't I just direct the show? And we were like, oh, okay, sure. So he came over, we flew him over for 2.5 weeks, and we ripped the show apart. All of us in a room, just hardcore, ripped it apart and put it back together again. And then we had the version that went on stage in November 2018, which was definitely miles better than the original. And hopefully there's still a few more versions to come. I'm not entirely convinced that it's fully finished and that it's fully exactly the way I want it. So you could say it's still technically in progress.
Fantastic. So there could be a revival coming soon.
Definitely. That's the plan.
Fantastic. So the journey to London is quite fascinating. Did you meet anybody influential over there? Anybody of interest? Having the exposure on the West End, was that of a huge benefit? Being around people who had influence and who could see your work and see what you were trying to do.
For sure. I think the thing about the West End that we don't have here in this country is that we don't have quite the same idea of musical theatre as a business, as a show. It's, you know, as a kind of a career, and there's a lot of money and effort and time that goes into these things. And it's not just, I think theatre in general in Ireland, a lot of the time is passion projects, and people putting their own money into things, a lot of people working for basically nothing, which I'm very grateful for. Many people have given me a lot of their time over the years. In London, I think it's a little bit more, there's definitely a community. That community is bigger because there's just more people in London.
Yeah.
And also you have the West End, which is such a viable like source of money for people. So I was really lucky. The other palace is specifically for supporting new musical theatre. So it's actually a theatre that's owned by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And it is literally there to support new writers and new pieces of musical theatre. So there's always, if anyone is ever, I mean, when we can travel again, if anyone's ever in London, there's always cool new things happening there. So it's always a good place to go and see new things. And Kiki, who is one of the artistic organizers, I can't think of the proper title for what she does, but basically Kiki is great. She's a friend to a lot of writers, I think, in London, and she really liked Chromatics and she really liked the songs. So she kind of, I don't know, like sort of kept her eye out for me, and always put me forward and connected me with a lot of different people in London, which was really, really helpful, and sort of was what gave me the kickstart to think, okay, maybe actually it would be beneficial for me to go over there for a while and actually be in London and see what happens over here and how things work, because I just felt like this whole world of musical theatre had opened up to me, whereas here in this country, that was close. I feel like, you know, there are a lot of people making theatre and a lot of people making musical theatre. Not everyone calls it musical theatre. Not everyone wants to be branded as a musical. And also I think there's still that little bit of maybe like a stigma associated with making a musical that's not necessarily attached to like music theatre or a piece of theatre. So it's just a different environment to be in. And certainly there's a lot of supports and options for particularly new writers that there might not necessarily be here.
Wow. That's really tricky.
Yeah.
When you're working on a project, and actually while I'm talking, anyone on the Instagram Live, comment some questions and we'll put them through as well before we do our quiz later on. But when you're working on a piece, because I know it's something that during the pandemic, a lot of artists have had to focus on, is trying to find a working environment that suits them. Are you someone who like will sit down and tunnel vision on, pen to paper, and just get something done? Or is it like scattered 20 minutes here and there? Like, what's your work ethic and work, I suppose, routine like when putting together a piece?
I think when I'm working on a piece, I go all in, like hardcore. Obviously, especially when you're a writer and an emerging writer at that, you usually have a job because you have to pay your bills, and writing does not necessarily do that. So usually I'm working around a job or a project that is paying money in some other kind of way. But I do like to set aside time specifically to work and to write. And I sort of go into like a little zone. Like anyone who knows me will tell you that I literally tune out the rest of the world. Like someone could be yelling at me from 2 feet away and I will not hear them because I'm just focused and ready to go. Like, and that's sometimes just what you have to do. You have to focus yourself, especially giving yourself deadlines, I find is really helpful, because otherwise I don't think I would ever get anything done. But if I know I have to get this song or this piece done by this date for this person, it has to get done, and that's the end of the story. So yeah, blinkers on, ready to go.
Yeah. There's that.
Neve asked, sorry, just one.
No, far away.
Yeah.
Neve asked, the lovely Neve McGowan, absolute star.
A star of chromatics.
Like absolute star of everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Do you normally start with the music or the story/lyrics when working on a musical?
I get this question so often and I never have a good enough answer for it. For me, usually the music or a hook for the music. So, you know, the kind of like the catchy bit of the song. Like some songs I've written the melody of the line before the chorus as the first bit of the song. So like songs can start from anywhere. I usually do have a good idea of the story, because you need to know that the songs are actually serving the purpose of what you're writing. So there's no point, everyone hates a show where everyone just starts singing for no reason, right? Like the reason that people should sing in a musical is because words are no longer enough to express what they're trying to express. So there needs to be real meaning as to where your song points are and why your characters are singing. So you definitely need to have some kind of outline of what you're doing in terms of the story, but you don't necessarily have to have a script or lyrics. Sometimes it's just like a feeling. There's a song in Chromatics that was stuck in my head for ages and I couldn't quite like get it out to express it to people. I just kept going, it sounds like this. And people were like, okay, you're crazy. But then I wrote it and the song was called Rain. So actually people were like, oh yeah, that song actually does sound like this. Sometimes it's just a feeling, but usually for me, I sit at my piano. I know I have an idea about a song that I want to write. So whether it's the character that it's for or the point in the story that it's going to be or the plot point that it needs to cover. And I sit down and I kind of just start playing and singing and I figure out what sounds right. And then I add lyrics, and then hopefully by the end I have a song, and it might take a few drafts, but eventually I will get there.
Oh, that's amazing. Could I ask you, Tiernan Oak, could you tell us a little bit about Tiernan Oak, how you prepared for that, and following on from Chromatics, you know, did you see it as I've got a bit to prove here, follow up, there's a bit of pressure on, or how did you find it, and what was the process like for that, and how was the route to London for that?
Yeah, definitely, because that one was a little bit different. Although it did start again at Smock Alley and we presented it there, but again in Seen and Heard. Yay, Seen and Heard. But Tiernan Oak, I think, was an idea that I had in my head for a really long time. I knew it was the next thing that I wanted to do after Chromatics, and I think before I had really started it, I definitely was a little bit nervous. I kind of felt, you know, everyone had loved Chromatics so much and everyone kind of thought like, oh, she did this and it was great. And I was like, oh God, the next one better be great too. Like otherwise people are going to be like, oh, well, the first one was good. But actually when I started writing Tiernan Oak, they're such different beasts. They're completely different stories. Like, I mean, Chromatics is very real. Some of the characters are based on my actual friends and they know this. They're fully aware. Some of them played themselves or versions of themselves. But Tiernan Oak is completely different. It's basically a wicked version of Tiernan Oak. So I'm telling the story of Tiernan Oak from Neve's point of view. What if Oisin wasn't the hero that we all thought he was? What if he was actually the villain and the bad guy? So what if when he fell from the saddle didn't break, but it was cut? Is basically where I started with the idea for Tiernan Oak. It has blossomed into a really interesting story now, and I'm actually in the middle of rewriting the script at the moment. But Tiernan Oak started back in, I would say, like September 2017. So kind of, I was starting to write things just after Chromatics. Again, we did a few workshops. I got a few people in a room, which I'm always so grateful. I send out a message and I'm like, does anyone want to come and sing a song? And everyone is always so generous. They're like, yes, we want to come sing a song. So those people are always so helpful to me. Just, it's great to get a song, I call get a song up on its feet and just hear people sing it that aren't you layered a million times. We started writing Tiernan Oak back then. It's a bilingual show, so I've needed a lot of help because I am an aspiring Gaeilgeoir, but definitely not fully fluent. So I've needed a lot of help with people, especially because I want to try and make the Irish sound very pretty because it's a very fairy tale based show. We did Smock Alley and we did Seen and Heard. We did a 45-minute production, which is a work in progress, very much a work in progress. And we all knew it wasn't. The difference with Chromatics is that when we tried Chromatics out, we were kind of just like, let's put this on the stage and see what happens. We have no idea what to expect. With Tiernan Oak, we went into it knowing that this 45 minutes was not the final show. This was an experiment to see how an audience reacted and if it made any sense to people, especially switching back and forth between English and Irish. So we did that. It went down really, really well. People had favorite characters that they wanted to hear more about. We knew the plot points that we wanted to elaborate on. And then I moved to London, where the appetite for a bilingual English-Irish musical is a little bit smaller, maybe than here. So I decided to put it on the back burner for a little while. However, this opportunity came up again at the Other Palace for a podcast called All That Scratch that they run. Kiki, that I mentioned earlier, is one of the hosts. And she had posted about it a few times. And when I first moved to London, I went to go see a recording of it. And I thought, you know what, I've got some songs, like I'm here in London, I have to do something. So I submitted the finale song, Bring On the Day. and they really liked it. So then I got a group of my friends together in London to sing this bilingual English-Irish song at the performance, and the audience absolutely loved it, even though half of them, I'm sure, could only understand like 50% of the words. But it went down really, really, really well, which was amazing. And I was so grateful. Like, it was nice because there was a lot of UCD musical people who were there in London with me. And I basically called them up and I was like, hey guys, want to get the band back together? So that was really nice. And they kind of came and helped me out. So I'm very lucky with all the people I have around me to do that.
And I think that's the great. No, sorry, go on.
No, that's it. Then basically now I'm just back writing and redoing. I'm literally looking up here. I've got like a wall full of post-it notes up behind my laptop, which is the plot and the storyline of Tiernan Oak. So I'm in the midst of rewriting it again with the help of some very good friends. So yeah, it's great.
And that's the thing I was going to say was that, you know, it's fantastic, especially within Ireland. And I know we spoke earlier about how we don't have a homegrown industry here as such, but everybody is so eager to apply themselves or to get involved, and say, even like when you're instigating these innovative and creative new concepts and conceptual ideas for musical theatre in Ireland, I think people really want to invest in that. They want to get involved with that because shite, the fucking drink, fuck.
This is great.
Sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, absolutely. Cursing is fine.
Okay, but yeah, no, that's what I say. It's just it's absolutely incredible. And I think especially you get a small glimpse of it in UCD when you're in the musical society. And I mean, talk about commitment, people in UCD Musical Society. I mean, college gets on the back burner. You're there for a diploma in musical talk, really. That's
100%.
So that leads us on to UCD Musical Society, just for a bit. Want to know, you know, what year did you join? Oh God. When did you like what was your first project in UCD? And Bonnie and Clyde in particular is a really, really interesting one, because you directed it, and the Irish premiere too. So had you applied for that? And you know, what were your general experiences like in UCD Musical Society?
Yeah, well, I think I'm really lucky. I mean, this is gonna show my age now, but I joined Musical Society in the second session. So early on, back in the day, that was when I was a little first year.
You're a vintage musical society.
I know, yeah. We were the babies back in the day, so it's really funny. But yeah, I joined back in the second session. I auditioned for everything. I got into nothing. But I was so eager. I was like eager beaver, capital E, capital B. So I applied for everything. I ended up working on, the first show was Little Shop of Horrors, I think. And it was my job to direct the plant out when Audrey 2 grew into the giant Audrey 2. So that was my like first thing in Musical Society back in the day. Yeah, so I've seen and been around for most shows in Musical Society. Obviously, the last few years I've just been attending as an audience. But no, I've been around for probably too long, but a long time. And my last show that I did as part of Musical Society, well, I suppose UCD, was Legally Blonde, which was a community musical, but you know, close enough. And yeah, so I have that whole span from like Little Shop of Horrors to Legally Blonde and everything in between. But Bonnie and Clyde was really exciting. I had applied with definitely something else. I can't even tell. I think maybe Avenue Q I had applied with. And the committee at the time were like, we really want you to direct the show, but we don't want to do Avenue Q. So we spent weeks and weeks going back and forth. I mean, I'm sure you guys still do this to this day, like going back and forth, trying to find the right show, trying to find the show that works for everybody, and it fits the musical director, and it fits like the director and the, you know, vocal director and everybody else. Everyone has to be happy. And then we settled on Bonnie and Clyde as a kind of a compromise, I guess. But actually it turned out to be a phenomenal show. And a show that I think we were all really, really glad that we did. And it was the Irish premiere, which was also a very fun thing. The rights had only recently been released, I think. So we just happened to be lucky enough to be the first people to do it. But it's still a claim to fame. We also introduced, I don't know if this is still a thing in musical society, but for a long time there was like PTSD about palettes. So that came from Bonnie and Clyde, where we decided to build the entire set out of palettes, which looking back, not a great idea, but we did it. Many people fell through those pallets, but you know what? We all survived. At one point we had like Richard Butler in an interval of a show on his hands and knees, like drilling more planks into the pallets. Like it was a great time that we had. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed Bonnie and Clyde. And that was kind of another thing that really showed me that I liked being on that side of productions. And I liked being on that side of musicals where I had sort of more creative control, where I got to like see something in my head and then make it happen in real life. So I think that's probably really where that started for me. And a lot of the people that worked with me on Bonnie and Clyde or who were in the show are still my friends today. They're still some of the people that help me out when I need people to come and sing in a room. So definitely one of the highlights, I think, for me of Musical Society, for sure.
Wow, that's so interesting. I mean, and it's funny that the stories about the sets goes all the way back, you know, those mini crises. I mean, they're always there. There's always something every show. But that adds to the experience, I feel. It does add to the crack.
Always. It's all problem solving. You learn on the fly. Yeah. It's fine.
100%. So do you find that, like, did you find that your directorial kind of experience helped you even when it came then to starting composing and starting kind of devising your own theatre? And did that just give you kind of an added oomph to what you were bringing to the table in terms of composing?
Yeah, definitely. I think because it's really important as a composer or as a writer to be able to, especially if you're writing for musical theatre, to be able to visualize what it might look like. It might not be what your director ultimately goes with, but you need to have a vision in your head of what you're trying to make and what it might ultimately be, because it starts off just as an idea inside your head. So if you have the experience of knowing, you know, what it takes to move people across the stage, or how would you get someone from one point to another, how would someone sing this song if they were performing it, that's all really, really helpful when you're working as a writer, especially if you want to work commercially, because you're going to be given a brief and you're going to have to fill it. So I think that was really, really helpful for me. And yeah, just knowing how to work with people. Like the thing about musical theatre is that it's just all collaboration, like absolutely everything. I mean, you guys know this, I'm sure, but like no one can make a musical by themselves, just as one person. You know, you need people to do your lights, your sound, your set. You need people to give you ideas. You need people to perform. You need people to play the music. Like you have to have this huge team of people come together. And being a director really puts you in the middle of all of that and shows you all the different cogs that you need to keep track of when you're actually making a show. So I think that has really helped me. And usually when you're a writer in the early stages, you're going to end up doing a lot of that stuff yourself because there's nobody else to do it. So if you want your show to happen, you've got to make it happen. So I think knowing how all those pieces work and knowing which bits are important, which bits you can do, and which bits you absolutely need to go find another human being to help you with, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And definitely you're 100% correct as regards having that synergy of a collective. And because you only notice it if one piece is missing, then you notice it. And it doesn't matter how small the role is, every role counts when it comes to a production. So no, we'd agree 100% with that. But we do a little game every week. I think it might be time on. A little quiz. It's
oh God.
I mean, akin maybe to, I don't know, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or Top Gear.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So we have a leaderboard at the moment. Who's top of the leaderboard? And it's Kate, isn't it?
Kate Graham is top of the leaderboard.
Oh no.
With 8.5 out of 10.
And I know both Sean and Oisín, so if I end up below either of them, I'm never going to
not near the end of that. They got 50%, so they have 12 questions.
That's really high.
They have 12 questions, you've 10, so we have to just get 6 to beat them. That's
You can do it.
I don't know, you have a lot of faith in me.
I believe in you. I really do.
Thank you.
How do you feel about general knowledge? What's your vibe?
I mean, it depends on the general knowledge, I guess.
Wow, this is going to be a doozy. I've already shot myself in the foot because the first question has our sacred word in it.
Oh,
so, what is the name of the tallest mountain in this great nation.
Oh gosh. I know where it is. Is it Carrick?
It is Carrick.
Phew.
See, you're already on track to win.
Here we go.
I was like going way back to like 10-year-old geography right there. That was
It sticks there. It really does just stick there. Okay, this one is, I would say, a little bit more exotic. So it's multiple choice, just to help you out. What did Andy Murray start tying to his tennis shoes in 2015?
Oh God.
A front door key, a wedding ring, or a piece of haggis?
I'm gonna go with a wedding ring.
It was a wedding ring.
Oh, phew.
Bit of sentimentality for you.
I was
2 in a
hoping he
row.
was a sentimental person. Anything sports related is not going to go down well. Let me tell you that
start
now.
leaving a ring on your piano and you're writing.
Yeah.
That will help out. Traditionally, sailors would get a tattoo of what bird after traveling over 5,000 nautical miles? Is it A, a seagull, B, a swallow, or C, a swan?
A swallow?
It is a swallow.
I'm so stressed. You've no idea.
Well, it's pushing you. So this one's a musical one because.
Oh God. Well, I better get that one right.
Get Me to the Church and The Rain in Spain are all songs of which musical? Hello Dolly, Gypsy, or My Fair Lady?
That's My Fair Lady.
It is My Fair Lady.
4 in a row.
Oh,
Sean
God.
Gilligan and Oisin Nolan are sweating right now. Which British comedian turned TV host is now performing as Thénardier in the Les Mis concert?
Oh, what's his name? He sings the baked potato song.
He does sing the baked potato song, the highlight of my quarantine.
Yes, mine too.
It was so fun.
Oh my gosh, I could sing you the whole song too.
If you sing us the song, I'll give you a point.
Oh, absolutely. Wash your hands and stay indoors. Thank you, baked potato. Only visit grocery stores. Thank you, baked potato. If you want to have a better day, you must listen to what the baked potatoes say. There you go.
Well done.
I'll take that point.
That's the point. It's Matt Lucas.
Matt Lucas, yes.
Most recently of the Great British Bake Off.
Yes, of course.
Quarantine highlight. You're on 4, to be fair.
I mean, one of them was hard won, so I don't know if it counts.
What are the Waterford County colours? White and blue, orange and white, or red and gold?
White and blue.
It is.
I spend many a time down in Waterford, so I'd be killed if I got that one wrong.
You've
They win the hurling today.
They did not win the hurling today. We're not going to talk about it.
Line up.
Okay.
On Kilkenny.
This is a fun one. This is one
God.
I learned about recently, and I had to shoehorn it in. So get ready.
Okay.
He was a media sensation in the 1930s. But what creature was Jeff, who was said to live in the walls of a farmhouse on the Isle of Man? Was he A, a groundhog, B, a moose, or C, a mongoose?
No, he was a mongoose. I read this article.
It's the funniest story ever.
But they don't know if he was a real mongoose or not, because wasn't
the
he like
ghost of
thought
a
to be a
mongoose,
hallucination? Yeah.
For people who don't know, this family on the Isle of Man believed there was the ghost of a mongoose living in their walls, talking to them. Just like, not really good conversation, apparently just introducing himself as Jeff to people who came to the house.
As you
in
do.
the 1930s, and it attracted tourists. People would visit this family's farmhouse to meet Jeff the ghost mongoose. Okay, another.
I'm so glad I knew that.
I was really hopeful you would. I was like, I'm gonna look like an absolute tool if I'm.
No. I'm here. Don't worry.
Okay, a musical question.
Oh God.
Which of these is not the name of one of the orphan girls in Annie? A, Duffy, B, Pepper, or C, Sally?
Sally is not an orphan.
Well done. Sally.
I just directed or musically directed Annie last year, so that might be cheating.
Here we go. I mean, you're 100% right now. This is.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
What is the surname of the brothers Wilbur and Orville, who are said to have invented flight? Aviator, Boeing, or Wright?
The Wright brothers.
Well done. Okay, and
What are we on?
we're on 9.
Oh
And
my
we're running out of
God.
film question
Oh
because as a
no.
film student, gotta shoehorn that in as well. What is the highest rated film currently on IMDb? A. Jordan Peele's Get Out. B. Frank Darabont's The Shawshank Redemption. And can I just say this is my audition for the Oscars announcer? I think
It's very good.
Or C. Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh,
Three fantastic movies.
that's actually hard. I'll be taking a guess because I feel like they're all very highly rated movies.
They are.
Do you want a 50-50?
Yeah, give me 50-50.
Okay. Jordan Peele's Get Out
Mm-hmm.
or Frank Darabont's The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, well, that was the two that I was confused between. All right, okay. I'm gonna go with Get Out.
It's not.
No!
Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, I lost it. It's done.
That is not a bad score at all. 9 points. You've beat
9
Kate.
points.
Sorry,
Oh, great.
Kate. You're on the top. You're the queen of the leaderboard.
Yes.
Top of the table.
Top
I'll
of
take
the
my
top.
crown in the post, no problem.
That was a fantastic one. 9.
I'm so
you're winning.
stressed. I need to breathe now.
We'll take a drink. Here's
Yeah.
to 9 points.
Here's to 9 points.
9 points.
So while we're on the theme of movies, you talk a lot about getting Irishness into your pieces. You know,
Yeah.
Chromatics focuses on a lot of problems, and Tiernan Oak is taking a classic Irish piece of folklore and flipping it on its head. And it isn't really like musical theatre, but I think it's in the conversation a lot, and it's good old Wild Mountain Thyme.
I could feel
Yeah,
that coming.
What did you make of it as an Irish creator and an Irish artist, having that as like what seemed to be Hollywood's perspective on Ireland? Cheers.
Of course. So I mean, I think like everybody else, I had a nice good laugh at the trailer that we saw. I wasn't surprised. Was I disappointed? Yes. Mostly because I think initially when you watch that trailer, you think like, oh, okay, like it's fairly corny, but it's obviously set back in like the old times. And then they're like, we're off to New York, and it's just New York.
Post
And I was like,
9/11,
oh,
like
oh
it's
no,
in the
okay,
past
this
18
is
years.
yeah, this is now. I think it just highlights the exact reason that I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, is that so many people around the world, and we're so lucky as Irish people, like there's Irish people all around the world, don't get me wrong, but I think there's also this sort of pervasive idea of what Ireland is. Maybe it's a little idealistic, maybe it's a bit leprechaun and green things happening in the background, but I worked in America for a time as well, and I definitely found myself coming up against stereotypes that I thought were very clearly not true. I've had people ask me if we have electricity. I've had people ask me, like, do we all live in cottages with thatched roofs? And some of us do. But we also have, you know, cities and universities and airplanes. I think there is this sort of like stereotypical idealized idea of these like rolling green hills and sheep everywhere and women wearing shawls. And not that I don't think that's an important part of our history, and it's certainly something that we have that's unique and always recognizable for us, but I think like we're also a modern country. And I think, you know, some of the themes that I touched on in Chromatics, you know, with the marriage referendum and the abortion referendum, like we are a modern country and we're making modern choices, especially with like the young people in Ireland. And I think it's really important to highlight that and show people like who we are and what we are, because even when I went to London, people don't know about Irish culture, about modern Irish culture. They still have this idea, and that's London. Like, you know, it's a 30-minute plane ride away. So I think that's why it's so important to get more Irish people writing Irish things about Ireland, and to highlight what Ireland looks like today and what Ireland is, so that we don't end up with more Wild Mountain Times where everyone, you know, I think it speaks to a lot when the trailer comes out and the entire country memes something that, like, I feel like that should show you that maybe you didn't quite hit the right note that you were going for. And you do have to take into account the fact that maybe that movie is not, it's about Ireland, but maybe it's not for Irish people. Maybe they've made it for the world at large. But I would argue that then it's your responsibility to make sure that you're portraying the people that you are portraying in the right light and make it seem, I'm all for just listening to Irish people when you're trying to write Irish stories, so you don't end up with like diddly-eyed lie in the background of every scene, when like that's an important part of our culture, but there's also a lot of other new ideas and new things that are happening that just, yeah, it bothers me.
And the funny thing is, you mentioned him not making it for Irish people. The director did an interview. I'm not trying to please Irish people, said, but that's a conversation for another podcast.
That is absolutely. And I look forward to listening to that.
Sean touched on, and we touched on it with Sean, and I think it's really interesting hearing that, and I want to hear your perspective as well. And it's on Irish theatre and where it's going, especially after the pandemic. And it's always in the discussion with Irish theatre that the Abbey puts on shows that present Ireland as troubled, and usually shows where it's in the country and it's a grumpy farmer abusing his daughters. Tends to be the common theme in a lot of Irish plays. Where do you see the representation of this country and the representation of Irishness going in Irish theatre? Do you see it developing to be something more, not necessarily globalized, but maybe something more like Chromatics and Tiernan Oak? Or do you see it sticking to its roots a bit more?
I think we're always going to have those connections to, you know, like the classics, you know, like, I mean, people still put Shakespeare on, even though we know that the world isn't the way that it happens in Shakespeare. But I think it's important to view those kind of pieces as what they are and show them as a snapshot of Ireland in a time where they existed, and to also bring forward these new ideas that are happening in Irish theatre. Obviously, I hope that new ideas are brought forward. That would be great for me. But I mean, I think it's really important. And I think there are a lot of people writing new works. I think there's actually a lot of talent in our universities, even. It gives people a place to grow. Like there's a lot of new writing happening, even as part of like inters or in Dramsoc and things like that, where there's a lot of new writers just trying things out. I think if we are going to bring those new ideas forward and give them the chance to become something, we need to have those opportunities for people, because that is one thing that I have noticed here, is that unless you have money behind you, unless you have someone supporting you, it's so difficult to get any idea off the ground and get it going anywhere. So I'm home now for the foreseeable future, so I hope to help as many people as I can with whatever advice I can give them or whatever way we can work together. But ideally, I'd love to see in 5 to 10 years, new musicals or new pieces of Irish theatre springing up all over the place in maybe smaller venues, or just places that are kind of dedicated to really supporting new writers and new creators just all the way through. I mean, I hate the idea that so much of us get exported and we end up over in London, which I've been there myself. We have to go, like, that's the thing. But I would love for that not to be the case. I would love for all of us to have the exact same opportunities here as we can get over there. So yeah, I guess I would love to see that nurtured and fostered. And I think places like the Abbey and the Gate could do it, but they need to really make the commitment to do that for sure.
Do you feel musical theatre as a whole strand is lagging behind in terms of fostering new creatives, new writers, new composers? Because even if you look at, you know, the playwriters world, you're seeing a lot coming through all the time, fresh new material. And I feel, not to say that it's not coming through in musical theatre, but it's definitely tougher. And I feel a lot of the cliched classics are regurgitated and regurgitated over and over and over again. And where is the scope, do you feel? And do you think possibly COVID could change how we view that we might not go back? I mean, I'm hoping at least that we don't go back to just doing the same shows over and over again, that we allow space now for the next generation of the classics, you know? Yeah, what would be your opinion in terms of...
I think it's funny because, you know, the thing I think that comes up a lot, like musical theatre is so prevalent throughout Ireland. A lot of people engage with it just at an amateur level, whether that's through Ames or a society or something like that, which is completely fine and good, but you hear the same complaints over and over again. They're like, but there's only so many shows we can do, right? And then obviously in the last couple of months, we've had a big shakeup, which was long overdue, of people saying, you know, well, you can't perform these kind of shows anymore. You need to perform these ones, and you can't be casting, you know, white people in roles for people of color, all these different kinds of things. And musical societies were pushing back and saying, well, what do we have? There's only so many shows that there are rights available for. But I think it's really important for people to know that it's not just like the catalog on MTI or the catalog for Joseph Weinberger where you can find musicals. There are so many musicals out there. There are hundreds, thousands that are being made every single day. And there are some really good sort of initiatives being set up over in the UK, but hopefully ideally will also come here too, where you can find new musicals to put on. And I think it's really important for anyone who's involved in musical theatre in Ireland to make that effort to engage with new musical theatre, because they are out there. We are out there. There are so many people writing. I could name you so many now. And there are so many great shows and so many things that they're making. And I think that if we just made that space for them and encouraged people to just look outside of that narrow idea of what they think musical theatre is or should be, we would be in such a better place. And I really hope that's what's going to happen. I hope people look outside. I mean, look at something like Michael Collins, the musical. That was something that someone came up with, and they were like, here's a new musical, we're going to do it. And they did it. And it won so many awards, and everyone's like, this is incredible. More musical societies need to do that. They need to go to a person who's written a show and be like, we want to license your show. And they'll be like, okay, here you go. Great. Yes, please put my show on. Like, that's what we need to be doing. And I think there's a huge community there. We just need to figure out how to mobilize ourselves and support each other a little bit better.
Yeah. And I think in a place like Ireland, you know, for the stories that we could produce. Fuck, shite, sorry.
A very Irish response to you.
I'm going to get expelled by UCD. We do no harm at this stage. I think I've been around too long. Yeah, I just feel like with the storytelling tradition, everything, and even like, you know, yourself taking on stuff like Tiernan Oak, you know, like the epic array of folklore and heritage that we can play on, the political, the everything, you know, like I just, it's wasted, you know, it's genuinely wasted. And as you say, you know, somebody takes on Michael Collins and you know, it becomes now one of the stalwarts of musical theatre in Ireland. You know, this can be done, and the hope, as you say, would be that we build on that. But even something like the Commitments, you know,
or Sing Street, like Sing Street can be turned into a stage.
Sing Street,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So many.
You know,
this is what I mean. We're storytellers as people, as Irish people. We are storytellers. We are so like, and we do that naturally. We naturally put songs into things. We're singing, like you walk into any pub on like late on a Saturday night, like someone's having a sing song somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like it's in our DNA. And there are so many things that we could do if we only just kind of figured out how to actually put them all together.
And like every community, you go the arsehole of Kerry, you'll find a town hall with a musical theatre society in there. Like
exactly.
And you touched on something that has been rocky waters for societies, and we UCD have played a part in that problem, and it's something that I suppose needs to be discussed. It needs to be discussed with a broad range of diversity and members across the board in Irish musical theatre.
Yeah.
But I wonder where do you think this idea and this, I suppose, entitlement in Irish theatre came from, where people are like, oh, well, we don't have the diversity to put on the show, so we have to cast it like this. When surely the answer is just don't put on that show if you're in the arsehole of Kerry. And also, do you think maybe the first step to developing Irish theatre is encouraging these community musical societies to actually ask their members to write something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about, you know, this hypothetical town in the middle of Kerry in the wilderness. Like, why would someone not go there? Like, there must be thousands of stories from those people in that room alone. Like, I sat down and looked at the lives of my friends around me, and I created a musical. Like, that is so easy to do. Everyone's got a story to tell, and I think there are so many stories that we have to tell and we should be telling. I think, like I said before, as it's so important, I feel, for Irish people to tell authentic Irish stories, I think that carries over into the other things that we were talking about as well. Like, we need to be authentic in our storytelling, and you can't tell a story about race if you don't have people of different races in your musical. And yes, I agree with you. Like, I've been involved in some productions in musical society too that, like, looking back on it now, were wrong and we should not have done them. And I think it's important for people to recognize that and not take it as an attack or a personal offense, but just to own up and say, you know what, should we have known better? Absolutely. Did we know better? No. Will we go forward and try to be better in the future? No, not try to be better. Will we be better in the future? Yes, absolutely. And you have to make that commitment. And I think it's important for everyone involved in musical theatre to make that commitment too. Like, it's so important. If I'm sitting here talking about how it's important to hear Irish people tell Irish stories, I should not be condoning anyone else telling the story of someone else. People will always make the argument, we're actors, we can tell stories of different people, but if there's something inherent to that character that you will never be able to understand, whether you're white or because, you know, you haven't lived the same lives that they've lived, then you're never going to authentically be able to play that person. Just as I would find it difficult to cast, I don't know, an English person in chromatics because I would feel that they didn't understand the context of the story. So I think it's just important to look at those things and make sure that we're making the right decisions for the right reasons and not excusing things just because we think, oh, well, we've done it before, we can do it again. That's just not in the cards anymore. I think we have to all stand up and be like, you know what? Okay, yes, maybe people decided before that this was an okay thing to do, but we very much know now that it is not. So let's not do that anymore.
Yeah. Here. That's fantastic. And I think it's a really poignant point on where theatre is going in Ireland. And I hope, I mean, with the diversity within Ireland at the moment, both culturally and from a migration perspective, everything, we should really, really try and hone in on that. And start as well and writing theatre that represents all elements of Irish life now.
I think important as well, sorry to cut across you.
No.
Something that I've noticed as a theatre maker in Ireland, I mean, when we last cast Chromatics, we held open auditions, we posted them up in the public forum for everybody to see. And we didn't get a diverse range of people who came to audition for the show. And whereas we could look at that and say, oh, well, people didn't come, so we just cast the show the way we cast it. It's also really important to then look back and be like, well, why didn't more diverse people come and audition for the show? What might be stopping those people from doing it? Is it access? Is it money? Is it, you know, the location of rehearsals? Something simple that you can actually take and reflect and try and do better the next time. And I think those really simple, practical things are important things to consider. I think a lot of people want to do the right thing and make more diverse theatre, but they really have to think about the practicalities and how they can actually make that happen instead of just hoping that more people turn up on their doorsteps.
Yeah. It's like structurally almost putting in the right mechanisms that can facilitate and understanding what has gone wrong over the decades instead of, as you say, kind of just making this assumption that, oh, we've made a statement, everybody come join us now, but that won't cut it. It's reaching out to these groups. It's meeting them. It's chatting to them. It's bringing them in from the cold as such. Absolutely. And I would agree with that 100%. Yeah, I think so. And that's really, really fascinating, Shauna. A great perspective. Just to ask you a quick question on who your inspirations are in terms of composing, or just anyone in musical theatre in general. But is there any particular individuals that stand out for you that you're like, wow, that they make me get up in the morning and write that show?
I mean, I think it's very easy to say, like, typical people like Stephen Schwartz. Obviously, I really absolutely love his music. I was very jealous of Oisín and all his experiences getting to work with the man himself.
I couldn't believe that he worked with him. It's just,
I know, blows my mind. But yeah, just, I mean, I think for me, it's not necessarily one person. Maybe it should be. My teachers at BML are going to be like, Shauna, what have we taught you for the last 2 years? But I think for me, it's not one person that I find inspirational. I'll take a show that really resonates with me. Like, take, for example, like Come From Away, right? I think Come From Away is a phenomenal show. And I can't pinpoint one reason why it's good. It just fills me with hope, right? So I will go into that show and I will like dig down deep into the bones of it and try and figure out what parts of it actually like bring that feeling up for me. So I go through a lot of like favorite shows and things, and I basically just find that in music. And it's not even just musical theater. A lot of my music has a lot of kind of like folk sort of influences and things, which obviously writing Irish music is always helpful. But I basically just sometimes I just have playlists that are just called like inspiration, because I listen to a song and something just sparks something in my brain and I go, I really like the way that chord sounds, or I really like the way that this song has come together and sort of made this feeling out of nothing. And for me, that's genuinely what inspires me. That sounds like really big-headed and like ethereal, but genuinely it's just that I hear something, and if it makes that spark go off inside my head, then that inspires me to make more music and to make more things. And if I'm perfectly honest, the people around me usually inspire a lot of my stories, because I'm always like listening to people and I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good story, I could use that one day. So beware anyone who ever has a conversation with me. I'm usually filing it away for future reference.
That's amazing. Fantastic. And we're nearly out of time, but I'm very intrigued about the Neville Longbottom influenced show.
It's very important that we say this is not affiliated with Warner Brothers. This has nothing to do with J.K. Rowling.
UCD Musical Society has no part in any.
Do not endorse this.
No.
Yeah, this was something that came about. So there's a whole other section of my life where I write what's called Wizard Rock, which is music inspired by Harry Potter and stories of Harry Potter. And there's like conventions that people have gone to, myself included. I've had some amazing opportunities because of it, and actually performed in my first original musical because of that. But a few years ago, my roommate and I decided that we wanted to write a musical about Neville Longbottom because we love him, and that we would debut it at LeakyCon, which is one of the biggest Harry Potter conventions in the world. And it could be the biggest, one of the biggest. And we did that last October. So again, very unaffiliated. And I'm sure if anyone ever found out, we would be in big trouble. But we wrote a bunch of songs. We put it on. We thought maybe like 12 people would turn up. And we ended up performing to like an auditorium of like 600 people with lines out the door. People were very invested in a Neville Longbottom musical. And yeah, we hope to do something with it in the future. Obviously, a lot of that has been thrown into disarray given the recent situations with J.K. Rowling being a terrible person. But we still have a lot of like feelings and thoughts about that show, and we don't know how to make it happen. The idea was to do a full version this year in the summer in Orlando, but COVID happened, so that didn't happen, as did many things not happen this year.
And you're introducing the Comic-Con world to musical theatre. You're bringing them in.
Well, you'd be surprised at the crossover. There is quite a lot. So hopefully one day in the future we'll get to put that on again. If not, we'd love to even do some kind of showcase here where we just get to show people the songs, maybe raise some money for some trans charities to sort of counteract the good and bad that's going on there and all of our conflicting emotions. But that's the idea. It's basically on hold while the world falls apart.
I love that idea. Shout out to Pottersock, who may tune in after hearing Harry Potter gets mentioned. We just did a little collab with them for one of their Yule Balls. Would you do like for the show? Would you do anything? Obviously, Star Kid comes to mind for any musical theatre nerd when you mention Harry Potter musicals. Would you do that as a workshop where you go maybe to colleges, UCD, or like secondary schools and workshop it with students or something? Like, would that be a consideration?
If any colleges UCD were interested in that, they could definitely get in touch with us, and we'd be very interested in discussing such things.
Morgan Moore, you listening?
Morgan, Harry
Get on the phone.
Here we go.
Get them all on board. We're well up for it.
We'd love it. That would be a fantastic workshop, though.
So cool.
Anyone watching right now, not to say that it's a promise, but it would be a cool workshop, even a reading or something.
For sure, yeah.
Ada McDonough, if you're listening.
All the committee are like, oh God, no, we had so many things planned this year.
Q ends absolutely panicking right now. Go for it.
What?
Go for it. Absolutely. I was running out of thought.
That's okay. I was just going to ask, what's in the future for Shauna Carrick? What are you working on now? Mr. Sean Gilligan, let us into the secret, and he said there's something in the works.
There is something
in the bowels of the composing world.
Yes.
And we want to know. We want some answers, Shauna. You gotta hand over some deets now.
I don't know that you're gonna get many answers from me. I can say that there is something in the works that myself and Sean and some other very wonderful people are working on. Hopefully that you will see the fruits of our labor early next year. Fingers crossed. I mean, hopefully you would have seen it earlier, but again, I don't know if you know, but there was a pandemic, so that's but that's still going. We're still working on that. What I can say is that I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really, really good, and it will definitely be a step in the right direction for Irish musical theatre, for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing.
G. Higgins musical.
Oh my God, that's incredible. I'm going to steal that. So
you're welcome to it. As long as I get to play Michael, I'm happy.
Oh, phenomenal. Yeah, you're in. No problem. Yeah, no, we have the project with Sean. I'm lucky enough to still be working with a few of my collaborators back in the UK on a few other projects. I'm rewriting Tiernan Oak at the moment. So I'll say that now so that everyone can hold me to it, so that I actually have to do it. So fingers crossed we'll have another work in progress of that early next year when theaters are allowed to open again and my heart stops breaking. And I've also been working on a children's show with my friend Alison Denon with the Mill Theatre. So that was also supposed to go on stage in September, but hopefully will happen next year. All we have to do is just wait for theaters to be open again.
Yeah.
And then we can go into them and people can attend.
Yeah. Please God, it's going to be.
Please.
I feel something in the waters.
There's good vaccine vibes going on.
It's just announced the Abbey are going to start running test performances this month.
I did hear this.
Brilliant.
And Jason Masterson, shout out Jason, tagged us in it, saying that there's hope that UCB Musical Society and Dramstock will get possibly, if the Abbey runs go well, might get to do something similar.
That's great news.
It might be the light at the end of the tunnel, and I really hope as well, as we do unfortunately come to the end of this, that for you as someone who doesn't necessarily rely on performance, but instead relies on the performances of your pieces, which is, I mean, for actors, not to say it's easy to get jobs, but actors can kind of move from one project to another. But for you as a composer, you are attached to this piece. Yeah. And I really hope that these tests that are going on in Ireland go well, so that you can get your shows run in the Mill and everywhere else that I'm sure the Arsehole of Carrick.
Yes, I need to go find that musical society now and write them a show.
Ballynafarnagig will be on to you now after this.
I know where the tallest mountain is, so I'm on the right track.
Exactly. That's it.
Well, I think that concludes everything. Shauna, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolutely fantastic evening.
This is great fun.
Wonderful insights, and we hope that you will join us again and you will get involved again with the society. Come in for a few workshops
anytime. Give me a ring.
Will I put a song on before we go?
I say we have a little boogie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not? I don't know.
Exam blues.
Shake them off. Is it week 12? Get out of there.
It's that time of year. I would like to plug again the fundraiser. I know people are probably sick of hearing us mention the fundraiser, but it's for 3 fantastic charities. I'll just quickly run through them because why not? Irish Cancer Society, everyone is familiar with. There's so much great work of patients, survivors, nurses, doctors, guiding them through the experience of a diagnosis with cancer. Tribe do amazing work as a middleman with mental health charities, helping them develop their responses to mental health, their resources, and helping them preempt issues, not intervening, not necessarily at the last minute, but intervening earlier. And Helium Arts, fantastic, really small charity based in Mullingar, working on bringing the arts into children struggling with lifelong illnesses in between waiting periods with operations. All 3 do fantastic work. It genuinely is so worth the donation and so worth the love. We do have a competition. Anyone living in the Bray Wicklow area, a €5 donation will put you in the pot to win a €20 Catalyst voucher. Catalyst is one of my favorite spots. Unreal food, unreal coffee. So please donate. Cian, take us away with some songs.
I hope this plays now, and if it doesn't play, it's gonna be really fucking embarrassing. But you know what?
If it doesn't play, Shauna can sing the baked potato song again.
I will.
No problem.
No problem. Song of my quarantine.
If Matt just wants to join us on the podcast, please.
Please do invite me back, just even to sing the baked potato song with him. I'd be really
That
grateful.
would be fantastic. I'm sure he's watching.
Can you hear any music?
No.
Okay. Can anybody play music there?
I can't because I've got my phone operating.
That's so emotional.
Oh no.
You've got a piano behind you.
Oh, it's not on.
Can you play Fairy Tale of New York?
No.
I suppose we'll just leave it there then.
Just have to leave it there. I'll compose the music for next time.
Perfect. If you want to write us a theme tune, we'll happily take it.
Perfect.
And thank you everyone for watching. This is it for this side of Christmas. We're hoping to come back with some more amazing guests. Shauna, thank you for being our wrap up before Christmas. It was such a fun evening. And here's to Ireland.
Oh, Ireland. Cheers.
Best of luck to everyone in their exams and their assessments. It's just one semester, so don't have any more breakdowns, please, because we can do with our members being healthy. All right. Thanks, guys.
God bless. Take care. Thanks so much.
Bye.